I think the biggest lesson you can take away as a young entrepreneur that's trying to focus and build a skill set and a niche and actually stack your money, it's choosing something and building a skill set behind it, and not getting distracted by trying to do 50 different things. Don't play 5 sports, play one sport and specialize in it.
How do you find the will to fight back against a world that wants to keep you sedated, average, and stuck in place? Join us for the tools and strategies you need to create a life of abundance, discipline, and high achievement. This is the Tactical Empire with Jeff Smith.
Welcome to another episode of the Tactical Empire. I am joined today by Shawn Rider. What's up, man? How are you?
Jeff, a little too much information. TMI, too much information. A little TMI. My dog has an upset belly and woke my wife up at like 3 o'clock in the morning and woke me up at 5:30 in the morning. So, I left to go do my morning routine and came home to a couple piles of loose feces on the hardwood floor. So there's that.
Yeah.
I became a cleaner earlier today.
There you go. That happens, man. It's a life.
It could have been much worse. The dogs could have ran through it and smeared it. They could have rolled in it. It was pretty contained in one area.
Okay.
He's 8 years old. And that's the first time he's ever done it in the house. He's done it in my 4Runner one time, and I would take the house over the 4Runner anytime.
Must not be feeling well at all. Well, I hope he gets better for sure. For sure.
Yes.
Yes. Did you have a good weekend?
Oh, we had a great weekend, man. I don't even remember what we did. We're trying to sneak in the last couple trips to the local pool that we're members of. I think they shut it down around Labor Day, so less than a month till that's closed up. So we hit up the pool a couple times. We hung out with the neighbors. I don't even know what else we did, but good family time. How about you guys?
Oh man, we had a good time. The weather here is amazing, and we're just hanging out. It's a little cold, actually. One day it was like only in the low 70s, which for us is very cold. For August, that makes no sense to us. It doesn't compute. And but I hired a running coach, and so I'm doing a running program that's 19 weeks long that is going to lead up to a half marathon, and got a wild hair in my ass to do that for some reason.
I did not see that coming. I was not. If you asked me what is Jeff Smith putting on his next 90-day plan, I was not going to be anywhere close to a running program or a half marathon. When you start sending him your times back, hopefully he's not asking you if you're continuing to ruck these distances, because you've been a rucker. So you got to get out of that habit and move a little quicker, apparently.
We'll see. I've always been a high mileage guy, no matter what. Like, sure. Even because in Ranger Battalion and stuff like that, you run a ton. So, we ran a lot of miles, very fast pace and stuff like that. So unbeknownst to most people, I can actually run, and I don't hate it.
What is this? Last week you were talking about doing keto for 2 days after your fast. Now you're training for a half marathon. What are you going to surprise me with the next episode? That you're starting back up your government qualified plans, or what?
Oh, I don't know. No, definitely not that, for sure. I don't mess with my money. My system is tried and true. It will not be deviated from. But I just felt like, I don't know, man, like I've talked about on here, like my schedule has been fucking off since we moved into the RV. I'm looking for something like to jumpstart me, and I felt like that would be cool. I set it up to run this half marathon at a pace that I was going to be happy with, like 8-minute miles or something for 13.1. And I built it out to do it 3 days after we get back to Houston for Christmas. So December 20th, like I'm not doing a fucking race. I'm just doing it on my own. And so I'm building for 19 weeks to do this. it's actually kind of cool because the guys got me partitioned off with hill training and sprint training, and then like interval stuff, like you're running 800s for time with rests and things like that. I've never done a running program like that. I just go out and fucking do miles always. Yeah. And so I'm going to see if it can keep my attention. I think it's going to be a cool little switch up to my programming, and I'm excited about it for sure. So I'll let you know.
No, please let me know. I'm not going to be doing any of that. I did a half marathon locally. There's a big half marathon that goes through like the battlefields in October, and I was on a kick where I did it like every other year, and that ended a few years ago. So I'm wrecked after half marathons, man. Like ankles destroyed, calves destroyed. But talking about running and talking about shitting the floor, a la my dogs shitting the bed. They did not poop in the bed. He pooped on the floor, for clarification. But talking about not pooping the bed, you want to know who did not poop the bed? The United States of America at the Olympics in 2024 in Paris. They just wrapped up. Closing ceremonies was yesterday. So you guys are hearing this episode a week or two later. But what we're going to talk about today, Jeff, is what can entrepreneurs, high W-2 income earners, basically anyone that fancies themselves as a high achiever or someone that's going after progress and growth mindedness and abundance over time outside of sport, just in life, right? In our careers, in our businesses, in our jobs, in our marriages. What can we learn from these incredible Olympians? Talk to me.
Oh, man. I think this is easy because for me, the answer would simply be singularity of focus and mastering something and not getting distracted by other things. Because when you take a lot of the athletes in the Olympics, some of them could be athletes in other sports for sure. If they shifted focus, if they tried to do 2 or 3 things. I was reading something about Bo Jackson, not to completely deviate from the Olympics, but I was reading something about Bo Jackson the other day, and it was rattling off all these stats of his throughout his like teens and 20s, and they were speaking with confidence that he could have went pro in 9 or 10 different sports. Just what a freak he was at picking up natural ability and stepping into something that he'd never really seen, and it's like, oh, I should do this. I mean, he was 6'1", 235 pounds, ran, some say, a 4.1. So there's non-official times of him under 4 on the 40-meter or 40-yard dash, and he had a like 38, 39-inch vertical at 6'1", so he could certainly dunk a basketball. He could certainly do just about anything on the field of play in any sport. I mean, you talk rugby, track and field, anything really. Football, baseball, obviously basketball. And so, but for him, he tried to do a bunch of different things, right? And it led to an injury. Not to say he wouldn't have got hurt if he stayed in football full time, but I think the biggest lesson you can take away as a young entrepreneur that's trying to focus and build a skill set and a niche and actually stack your money, it's choosing something and building a skill set behind it and not getting distracted by trying to do 50 different things. Don't play 5 sports, play 1 sport and specialize in it. And this is not a conversation about playing sports and specializing in sports as kids, youth, shit like that. So I'm talking about money, I'm talking about finances, and I'm talking about business. And I think we talked about this on a few episodes back. Somebody was bored with what they were doing and didn't think their business was coming back fast enough, but they said their business is coming back anyway. Like it's on the upward trajectory. They're bored with what they're doing. How should they set their goals? And the answer is they should dig into what they're doing. And that was my answer at the time, right? Like there's always more that you can do in your business. There's always more that you can do in your craft and building your skill set as a leader, as a marketer, as a salesperson. And I think that oftentimes we get mediocre at things and we feel like we're good enough and we feel like we've spent enough time in that area that we can move on. And just in my experience in business, the people I know that are fantastically successful and do it with ease, it seems to come after year 10, after year 15 of doing the same thing. And if you get into like the rarefied air of having done the same thing for 20 plus years, those guys are making the most money. They're doing the least amount of what appears to be work at that point in time, because they have mastered the game at such a level that it's easy for them. So I would say that, especially in today's society with like so many changes so quickly, just you have to stay the course and do things longer than you think are necessary and stay focused for a longer period of time. I mean, truly, that's what I'm teaching my kids. The true differentiator in like the next generation who's coming up is the ability to focus and the ability to stay on one thing for longer than your competitors. And I think that it's going to be the easiest time to win that game in history, because you're already seeing it unfold. People switch jobs every 18 months. They think that they can gain any traction. They think that they can get any momentum going by switching jobs at the first sign of disrespect from your supervisor, or the first sign of like, I'm not doing what I want to be doing, or they don't respect me, blah, blah, blah. And some of that stuff is valid. Most of it is not. Most of it is just not understanding the position you're in and how valuable you are at your current state. That's why, I mean, having worked in the corporate world for as long as I did, one of the best things I would encourage people to do is, if you're going to go to work for somebody else, and some people, everybody should at some point probably work for other people. There's very few people that come out of high school and should be doing their own thing, or out of college and immediately starting their own thing. So if I had one tip, would be like, you're talking the Olympics, so let's take it back there. Like, all those Olympians have coaches, right? And so the way I look at business is, you go find a coach, or you go find a big budget training facility that you can train under. So what that looks like is, you go find a entrepreneur who's built a business that's very successful, and you go apprentice under him somehow, or her somehow. So you go to work for them and you use it as on-the-job training that you get paid for. Or what I did was, I went in the corporate world and I used their monster fucking research and development and continuing education budget to hone my skills. I went out and did licenses in the financial industry. I did continuing education in all these different fields that I thought I wanted to maybe learn about. And I used all their money to go do that, right? As much as they would give me. And then what that did is, it turned around and made me look like a good employee to them too, right? So, but I used their money to do that. That would have cost me a fortune to go out and do it. And the same thing I've done in the entrepreneurial world. Anything I ever cared about, I went into that business and I ran it like I owned it before I ever had any responsibility in there. So like, there's different scenarios in my life I can point to where I went in and I just did the best job without asking for anything in return, and just showing up, building my skill set, learning, being coachable, being open. And what that allowed me to do is ascend through organizations very quickly. And I used other people's kind of sandbox to learn, to grow, and to build my experience, so that I could decide if that's something I wanted to do on my own or not. And then, like, a lot of people are entrepreneurs and they should be in that environment. And so, like, sometimes it's better to team with someone else that's really running the reins of things, so that you can operate in your skill set and your zone of genius and stay there and be paid well within an organization. So when you talk about Olympians, they're looking for coaches, or they're looking for training facilities with big budgets, right? I think entrepreneurialism is no different. You have to go figure out what you want to do, and then you have to build your skill set, your education, and your experience under somebody else's tutelage a lot of times.
Well, that was a hell of an answer. So I wasn't going to go this route with my initial response, but it kind of plays off of what you were saying. I think to be to be as successful as you can. To be as successful as you can, you have to be working in mainly you have to have three things working for you. So maybe this is the Success Trident: is one, you have to have a skill set, whether that's part naturally given to you or you go out and you earn the skills and develop the skills. That's one. You actually need to be good at what you're trying to do or become good over time and believe that you can become good. Number two, you have to be passionate about it. So even though you're good at something, if you don't care about it, you're not going to maximize your returns. And then the third one is like to be successful. And this is an entrepreneur, high achiever, money, high W2 income earner podcast. Like you have to be able to make money at it. So I do agree with you that like early on, like working and going above and beyond without expectation of direct return, like, yeah, that's definitely something that high achievers do. But eventually you have to be able to make money from the things that you're doing. So the three things are skill set and money and passion. And I think it's, I think for Olympians, the hardest one is the financial side of it. So you really don't get paid for being an Olympian, so to speak, but you get paid on the sponsorship on the back end. Even the gold medalists, I think, only got paid like 41 grand to become a gold medalist, whereas other countries were paying them like 120 grand to get a gold medal, plus free housing, plus free food and all this other stuff. But Olympians, they get paid on their sponsorships once they become high level and well recognized. So I think that's a little bit tougher from an Olympian standpoint. But if you're someone listening to this podcast, I mean, look at your natural skill sets, your natural given abilities, the things that you are good at. Okay, look at the things that you're passionate about, and then ultimately, can you make money with that? I think that's what we can learn from the Olympians. But the first thing that came to my mind, I kind of go to the psychology behind it, and I think this is. I have a love-hate relationship with the way that I think about this, because growing up, like I wanted to be the best at everything I did. I wanted to be good at football. I wanted to be the leader of the football team. I wanted to give it 110% effort every time I was out there. And now the older that I get, entrepreneurship is an infinite game. So it's a little bit different game than being a football player. I had to learn that I do have to pace myself. So the one note that I made when I was thinking about this over the weekend was like, when it comes to the Olympics, only one person can be labeled the best. Only one person is standing at the top of the podium with the gold medal. But that does not mean that the other people are losers, right? Like it's weird how we look at someone getting a silver medal as a loser, or you hear the line from I forget what's the Step Brothers, if you're not first, you're last, second is the first loser. Like, that mentality, it can be motivating, but it can also be detrimental to a certain extent. And so these Olympians, like, even if they didn't get a medal, some of these guys that come from smaller countries or countries that respect sport a little bit better, or individual sport. I was reading something about how the United States is like, we don't even know who most people don't know who the number one wrestler in the United States is, but we know who the number one football team is. Whereas other countries, they know who the number one wrestler in their country is, because they put a high value on individual sport and the accolades and the struggle that comes along with being good by yourself, not just with a team. And so like some of these other Olympians, they'll go home without a medal and they're still respected. They're still top of their game. And so the question is, what can an entrepreneur learn? And this is a pet peeve I had with the gym space. You get on a gym owner in small town USA's website, and their headline on their website is world renowned, world's best. Like every hot dog shop is the world's best hot dog shop. Like it's like, no, you're not. And that's okay. So like, even though there can only be one person with a gold medal, it doesn't mean everyone else sucks. So like, literally, you don't have to be the best to be successful in entrepreneurship. And entrepreneurship, like we're saying, it's an infinite game. And I do like Simon Sinek's, where like you don't have competitors in business, you have rivals, because you're never really ending the game. Like sometimes they're doing better than you, and sometimes you're doing better than them. That might be on a monthly basis. It might be an annual basis. It might be every 5 years you're kind of taking market share from each other just because of different factors. So I want to get that in small business owners' heads. Just because you think someone's doing better than you, and maybe they are, doesn't mean you suck. Like, why are you even spending time thinking about that? Focus, as Jeff said, focus on your path, focus on your progress, focus on honing your skill sets. And over time, when you hit that 10-year, 15, 20-year mark, you have the potential to catch up on all that potentially lost revenue, lost money, lost profit when you were struggling and going through the grind. And so that's something that I want to say to the people listening. Another thing was like, you see people come up to the line and they're like, we have a great heat. This is the finals of the 200-meter dash. This guy won the gold medal this year in the 100. This guy won the gold medal in the 200 4 years ago. This guy won first place at Worlds last year. So like, even though there's 8 people and only one of them is going to win gold today, the other guys beat him on any other day. Like Worlds last year, the guys that got gold didn't get gold at the Olympics this year. I saw one race where each guy had a gold medal at either a different Olympics or a world race. And the one guy didn't even get in the top 3 this Olympics, right? Like, it's about how you showed up that day. And it doesn't mean that's a reflection of all the hard work they put in or that they're not good. So just because you had a hard day in entrepreneurship doesn't mean you suck, doesn't mean you're a loser. Like, it's okay to recognize that I'm not the best in the world, because only one person can be the best in the world. Only one person can be the richest person in the world any given day. And just to say, like, it's probably not going to be us, Jeff, but we don't need, like, I know I don't need to be the richest guy in the world to live the life that I want to live. So I'm excited about that. And at the end of the day, the Olympics was a singular day highlight reel for the best people in the world. That's what Instagram is. I am sick and tired of entrepreneurs comparing their bad day to someone else's highlight reel, someone else's vetted and sourced out information, and they got to choose what we see. But we don't get to choose what happens to us on a daily basis that we struggle through. So I want entrepreneurs to hear that. Like, do not compare your bad entrepreneurial day, week, or month, or quarter to someone else's highlight reel. We're all struggling with things. There's a difference between struggling and suffering. Okay. If you're suffering through something, if you have depression, go get help. But just because you're going through a struggle, whether you're an employee or an entrepreneur, like, that doesn't mean that you're not making progress in the right direction. So those are the 2 big takeaways as I kind of watched people and I saw the backstories anywhere, and age doesn't matter, right? There was a 16-year-old American on the 4x4 relay team. He got a gold medal, and guess what? He's got to go to high school in 2 weeks. Like, that's so funny. Like, the dude just got a gold medal for the United States, and then he's got to go to high school, right? And then I think there was either a 61 or 53-year-old from another country that competed in her sport. So entrepreneur, like, it doesn't discriminate against your age. It doesn't discriminate against your gender, your sex, your ethnicity, where you grew up, who your parents were. Okay. We all maybe have baggage that we come along with, but it doesn't matter. You put in the work, you have a skill set, you're passionate about it. And if you can survive doing that thing, you can progress and become maybe not the best, but you can become pretty damn good, man. That's kind of the big lessons that I learned, Jeff.
Well, I think the difference, though, is what you mentioned is that the Olympics trains for one moment, right? And you have the good thing about entrepreneurialism is that it's a never-ending game. It's a game of attrition is all it is. And like, because if you can stay in the race, every day matters over a long period of time, over a macro period of time. And you can live a tremendous life if you just stay doing the work on a regular basis. And you will eventually have everything you want to have, like everything you're setting out to achieve. It may not come on the timeline that you anticipate it, but the benefit for us, as opposed to those Olympians, is that like my self-worth and value is never hinging on 3:02 Tuesday afternoon. The result of that particular 30-second period of time is the definition of how I've spent the last 20 years. I am fortunate enough not to have to do that. Now, do I get incremental results compared to what they get, which are stratospheric results? Yes, of course. Like that fucking dude who was talking all the shit and then won the 100-meter dash and guaranteed everyone he's going to win the 100-meter dash. Like, he went out and did the work. And 9 seconds later, he's a fucking celebrity everywhere. And so, like, I've got to spend 19 years and may never reach that same lofty levels of whatever, right? But that's not necessarily what I'm desiring. I just know that the cool thing about entrepreneurialism is that you have a new day every day. And that's a good thing and a bad thing, because you can come from the highest of highs one day and then get shit on the next day, but there's always the next day. And I love that about it, because I like grinding away, and not grinding like, oh, I'm going to outwork you 24/7, but the understanding that we're just in it. And this is a fucking fight for as long as I want it to last, I think is amazing. And I enjoy that about entrepreneurialism. That's why I'm not an Olympian. So that's one of the beautiful differences, though.
That's such an interesting statement that you make there. It's like all the Olympians are striving to be an Olympian and potentially get a gold medal, but they're all doing different events. The same thing with entrepreneurship, right? Like we are entrepreneurs, but we're all running different races to get different results. The person that's running the marathon is running a different pace than Noah Lyles, who ran the 100-meter dash. And the example that I can use for those listening is, like, if you guys listen to us, you know, I owned a CrossFit gym, right? You know, I kept going in that CrossFit gym until I finally quit the race, so to speak, for lack of a better term. We stopped that gym, right? And so one of the other CrossFit gyms in town is interesting, because now that I don't own it, we interact maybe a little bit more when we see each other out in public. And this gym owner in town, they're doing well, right? I know they're doing well. They have great client base, whatever. They acknowledged that they are working so much in the business. So here's two different gym owners. I held on for 12 years and then I stepped out of that one. We're starting a new gym, and I'm going to bring that into the conversation here in a second. But I stepped out of that, so to speak, race. So this person's still running the race, but they're running the race the way I don't want to run the race. They're working, and they were kind of complaining about it, right? Like, I've owned this gym X amount of years. We're at this level and I still have to X, Y, Z. It's like, man, well, one, I know how to get out of that, because I got out of that rat race, so to speak, in terms of hiring, delegating, and training people and finding the right people. And now that I'm going back into gym ownership via a different type of gym model, from day one, I'm setting it up to run the race that I want to race. So where other people are going to look at us as competitors, I'm not looking at us as competitors, even though we're in the same pseudo space. I'm running a completely different race because of how I want to set up my structure, because of how I want to set up my team. They can go and they can run the race hard. They're running 100 meters every single day. They have to bust their ass to hit their numbers, to keep their clientele. Whereas I want to hit my numbers, I want to hit my clientele, but I'm going to be the coach of a 4x4 team, right? The 4x400, they're running a little slower than a 100-meter dash, and I'm going to be the coach. I'm going to be training them how to do what they can do to the best of their abilities. So entrepreneurship, it looks like the same race, but we're all doing different events, even if you're in the same industry. So I think those are definitely some highlights from watching the Olympics. I think it was awesome to have my kids watch the Olympics instead of the shows that they like. I was driving with my daughter this morning and she goes, "Daddy, is the Olympics still on?" I said, "No, the closing ceremonies were yesterday." And she asked who got the most medals. And I said, well, the United States got the most medals overall, but we tied China for the gold medal. So then I said, but all athletes did great. Love that everyone worked hard to get there. And she said, especially Sydney. And it kind of caught me off guard. And I was like, Sydney? And then it registered me. It was one of the first female athletes that she saw on one of the early events. Sorry if I get this wrong, but it was either a hurdle event or a 400-meter dash or something like that. And the athlete's name was Sydney, and it stood out to my daughter. And that was like a week and a half ago that she saw that race. So I appreciated watching the Olympics with my family. Jeff, do you have anything to add before we send the people out?
No, sir. I like that. Good talk.
All right.
Have a great week, guys. Kick ass. Like and subscribe to our channel on Facebook or YouTube, excuse me. The Tactical Empire Podcast is the handle. And come to our Facebook community, the Tactical Empire community, and hit us up if you have any questions or just want to chat, need help with anything. Have a great week.